Howdy. Welcome to the MasterCast. I'm your host, Ben Wiggins. It is a beautiful day in Aggieland per usual today, and we are excited to welcome Travis Richards. Travis is the CEO and owner of Catco, a manufacturing company in Terrell, Texas that keeps energy flowing to homes and businesses by protecting natural gas process equipment from freezing. Catco was founded by Travis's grandfather. He is a third-generation business owner and third-generation Aggie. The third generation of any business is a dangerous time, so Travis has taken a unique approach to being prepared for the challenges of growing and scaling Catco to the next level. He improves his own business skills by hosting the podcast Get Better at Business, where he learns from a wide variety of business experts and shares that journey with his audience. We are excited to have Travis on the show today and hope you enjoy the discussion. Let's go. We welcome Travis Richards to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Dude, I'm thrilled to be here. Really excited to be here.
It is our pleasure. Let's start with a little bit of your background. Take us through the journey from there to here.
Well, it was a dark and stormy night. I guess that the relevant part, I can start with where I was here at A&M. I'm actually a Mays Business School dropout. I started out in business at A&M when I was a freshman, and I didn't know that business was right for me whenever I was 18 years old. Like a lot of people when you're a kid, it's like, you don't, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, well, hey, I'm 39, still trying to figure it out. But switched into engineering and did that, and then clawed my way through that effort and joined the Air Force whenever I got out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got out of the Air Force, I knew that I wanted to be kind of back home and closer to family. And so my dad had been running this business, ever since I could remember, and didn't really know what they did. But my brother was working there, and I just kind of knew that I was like, Dad always seemed to be making a pretty good living and have some flexibility. And so maybe this is something that I can do. So he was willing to bring me on board, and he kind of had his mind on stepping out the door. If, he's like, okay, if Travis and Chad are here, maybe I can move on to other stuff. And so I got in, and literally my first day, my dad sat me down and said, okay, this is a catalytic heater, and this is what it does, and this is why it's used. I didn't grow up in the family business the way that some people do. I wasn't working there in the summers. It was not like this thing that we did as a family. It was just this thing that my dad did. And so I got in there and started getting my feet wet, just working my way up. At first I was, just answering the phones and taking orders and talking to some customers, going out in the back and trying to work out problems. And, the first thing that I guess as I look back and sort of the first signs that I was interested in doing something more was when I got there, we were making all of the drawings for the products that we made. I don't want to say that they were drawn on the back of a napkin, but it was kind of, it was kind of like that. There was just like, it was, I knew that it just wasn't right. I knew that I was like, dude, there's got to be a better way of designing these products. And so
our napkins could be way better.
Yeah. And it's like, we were using this, kind of old school 2-dimensional drawing program. It was it wasn't even AutoCAD. It was this program called TurboCAD, which was basically like AutoCAD for people who don't want to spend the money. And, my dad and my uncle and the company had been using that for a long time. And I, having a little bit of engineering background, I got put in charge of doing the drawings. And so I scratched and I said scratch and clawed, it's like, but I worked on my dad for a long time to say we need to start designing things in 3D. Having been in engineering, it's like, I knew that SolidWorks existed. I knew that there were some 3D CAD programs. And I was like, the things that we're making in real life are 3-dimensional. We could design them in 3D. And so I finally convinced my dad to take a call from the SolidWorks people. And then they told him how much it cost. And literally the first words out of his mouth were like, "You've got to be out of your mind." It was, and it just, these programs are not, they're not cheap. He was used to, look, we go to Best Buy and we buy this CAD program in, a box, and we install it with the CD, and it costs $100. And so somebody's saying, oh yeah, this is going to cost you thousands of dollars and the ongoing licenses are going to cost you a bunch of money. It just wasn't really his experience. But that was the first time that I really was just like, okay, we can level up. We can, there's opportunity for us if we are interested in, growing and being a little bit more sophisticated. And so as time went on, my dad, he had developed some other interests. He was working in local politics. He was the mayor of Terrell for a long time while I was there, and he wanted to run for a different public office. And so that was a good sort of transition point. And
what was the other office?
So my dad, and this is still true currently, he's the county judge in Kaufman County, which is, for people that don't know Texas politics, being the county judge, it's like everyone's first question is like, well, is he a lawyer? It's like, he's not that kind of a judge. Really, my dad was the mayor of Terrell, and he did a really good job of, helping bring in business to Terrell and helping, helping the city get better and managing. And a big part of his responsibility was managing the city council, managing the city budget. And so really at the county level, there's an official called the county judge that helps manage the budget, helps manage the commissioner's court, which is kind of like a city council at the county level. And so my dad was going to go do that, and he finally stepped completely out of the business.
And he put you and your brother in a cage match to determine who was going to run the company.
Well, by that point, my brother, who had been at the company for a couple of years longer than I had, he had self-identified that he did not want to run the business. Some people, a lot of people say that, you're an entrepreneur, you're like born with it or whatever. I'm not in love with that explanation. I think that it's a little oversimplified, but the reality is that I had this appetite to, grow and take risks. And so whenever we had the idea of like, okay, we need to, like that first example of like, we need to go and invest in this new software program, my mindset was like, well, sure, let's spend the money and then we'll make it up. If we invest in this capability, we will turn it into more opportunity. And so I had that appetite, and my brother really didn't. And so he had already decided, he's like, look, man, it's like, I don't want to run the company. I'm happy for you to be in charge. And so by the time that my dad completely left the business, I think I had been titled as the CEO for a year or two, and I had effectively been running the business for several years before that. But, there was still, it's one thing to be called the CEO and to be said that you were running the company. And I found out that it is another thing to be an entrepreneur where it is your money and you are the one that's taking risk. And because I had some big ideas and some big plans, I didn't feel like it was right to take those risks with, the money of the current ownership, which at the time was, my dad and my grandmother and my aunt, the shareholders of the business. And, I also didn't really want to go out and have to seek their permission to do the things that I wanted to do. And also my dad was really good. Family business transitions can be really, really tricky. And it really was not for us. My dad was great about, he was always really willing to let me run with some ideas. And it's not like he was constricting me and saying like, hey, you have to come to me and let me know everything that you're going to do. But it was kind of an internal thing of like, I don't think this is a bad thing, but it's like, I felt the burden of, man, this is their money. This is like, if I take this chance, it's their, they are the ones that are absorbing all the risk. And I wasn't invested in the company at all at the time. And so my dad was kind of, it was not bothersome to my dad. He was happy to let me run with it and do what I wanted, but it was not okay for me. And so I finally I finally pressed the issue and said, hey, look, I'm going to set up my own company, and I'm going to buy the assets that I need from you and take over the operation. And he was happy to do that. And I mentioned that it's different. And so this is on October the 1st of 2020. This is the day that we were closing the deal. And I pull into the parking lot and the sprinklers are on. And the sprinklers, like sprinklers sometimes do, there was a sprinkler that was like, wasn't spraying the grass. It was kind of spraying on the concrete. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, it's like, number one, the grass seems green enough, like, do we really need to be watering the grass right now? And then number two, it's like, if we're going to have the water on, then we should have it pointed at the grass. Now, by this point, I'd been working at the company for, 8.5 years. And I bet that sprinkler had been spraying the parking lot for probably all 8.5 of those years. I had never noticed it before. But that day that it was now my company,
that was your money.
It was mine. It completely changed it. And that's when I realized that it's different being the CEO versus being the entrepreneur. I mean, it was different. Earlier, a couple of years earlier, when I was trying to really hone my skills and kind of get exposed to some new ideas, I reached out to Entrepreneurial organization to say, to try to join a peer group and, get some mentoring and stuff like that. And they basically turned me away. And they're just like, well, if you don't own the company, you can't be in this club. And I walked away. I was all, had a chip on my shoulder about it. And I'm just like, dude, it's like, well, I don't own it now, but I'm going to eventually, and this and that. And then I thought back to that conversation when I saw the sprinkler thing, and I realized, I was like, I probably didn't belong in that organization because it's different.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that, I set up the new company and got that started in October of 2020. And so we're closing in on, the new business has been in business for a year and a half. And so did all that during COVID and all the supply chain challenges and everything like that. And so it was an eventful first year.
What was the biggest problem that you had to deal with we roll all that together, COVID, supply chain, all that stuff? What was the biggest headache for you?
Well, I'd say that the biggest COVID directly did not have a huge impact on our business. We are a critical supplier to the natural gas industry. And so we kept on running. We had some people that started working from home to stay out of the office and all that. But COVID, we weren't, I know there's a lot of industries, and I had some friends that they had to close their doors. They couldn't keep operating because of all the restrictions. And so that wasn't us. But COVID had a very significant impact on the oil and gas economy. And that was a challenge. And so, anytime that oil goes negative, that was not something that we'd seen before. So there were some external market pressures, and then also all of the supply chain challenges that come with that. Just number one, our commodity prices are going up like crazy. Things that we just always took for granted of being able to call. And, the way that the business had been run for a really long time was, we had some really good, capable people that would just sort of figure everything out. And the way out of a lot of challenges, anytime that we would run into some kind of supply chain thing before all the COVID stuff happened, we could always rely on our relationships and call people up and say, hey man, I know that you said that this is not going to be here for 4 weeks, but can you pull some strings? And they say, yeah, man, well, we'll get you, 20 of them right now so that you can keep going, whatever the situation was. And that dried up. And you realize in that situation, we realized is that, I think this is a James Clear quote, is that it's like, you don't rise, something like you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And we did not have good systematized processes for dealing with challenges like this. And so having to deal with, now we had two problems whenever we had all these supply chain stuff. We can't get material, prices are going up. Now we have two problems. We have the problem of we don't have the stuff. And number two is that we have the problem of we don't have a system for how to deal with this. And so you're having to solve both of those problems at the same time. And there's people out there, you're trying to build the plane as you were falling off the cliff and, making sure that you have it up, powered and running before you hit the ground.
What did you end up doing? And you say you fall to the level of your systems, but at some point, like if I need the 2x4, I mean, I can build all the systems in the world, but if I have to, put a 2x4 in the frame, at some point, I need a 2x4.
Sure.
And there's only so much a system does.
Well, I mean, yeah. And one of the things that has been helpful is that the short answer is that something we still are unwinding some of these challenges. And it's like right now we have one critical part that it's a single source supplier. Anybody that is an potential alternative, they're all getting the same stuff from the same place. And I don't know all of the details, but presumably there's, some container ship somewhere that's got all the material and it's stuck in a harbor somewhere and that so we can't get it. And so we've had to go to our customers and tell them, it's like this thing that you want, it is not here. And so to get around that, you've got to get creative. You've got to, you've got to rely on the relationships that you have with your customers. And that's been something that's been a real asset for us, is that we have a very long track record of, our company's been in business for almost 40 years. And a lot of our relationships with our distributors and channel partners, these go back decades. And we have a very long track record of being straight with people, a very long track record of being trustworthy and conscientious. And so when we go to them and say, hey, this is, here's this problem, we've got credibility, but it still doesn't solve the problem. We still don't have the 2x4 in the example. And so you start saying, all right, well, what if we can't get 2x4s, we can get 2x6s, would that work for you? And you start presenting, we've had to add capabilities in the company to be able to redesign products and work around these challenges. We're just, kind of getting out and getting close with our customers to say, hey, what are some alternatives? This is the effect that, we can't get the product that you want. What is the effect that you were trying to achieve? Is there another way that we can achieve that effect using, some different, can we make a different product that would do the same thing for you? And so having to work around it, you got to work with what you have.
Sure. Yeah. And while we're at it, tell our audience a little bit about Catco's primary value prop.
So Catco, we are in the energy resilience business. And so anybody that is listening that was, around during the great February snowmageddon of 2021 is more familiar now than they used to be with the problem that we solve. And so we keep energy flowing, and specifically we prevent natural gas processing equipment from freezing and stopping up. So whenever we had the power outages, a big reason that was happening is that power plants can't get natural gas. And they can't get natural gas because out in West Texas, where all the natural gas is coming from, well, we are no longer able to pull this out of the ground and send it downstream because the equipment that we use to process the gas and send it down the line is frozen. Literally will turn into a giant block of ice. And a way that people can prevent that from happening is by using a catalytic heater. And a catalytic heater, which is the main product that we sell, runs off of natural gas, which is usually present in all of these places where the gas is coming out of the ground. You have natural gas available to fuel it, and it provides infrared heat without producing a flame. And so, if you think about a typical gas-fired application, the natural gas burns. It is literally on fire, and if you're in a natural gas field, probably natural gas floating around everywhere. And if you have an open flame, then you're looking at a bunch.
Very bad news.
Yeah, sure. Explosion, fire, death, destruction, all of that stuff that nobody wants. And so a catalytic heater it operates at a lower temperature and a lower energy, and it will not ignite, potentially explosive vapors in that atmosphere. So basically whenever the main people that we were dealing with are the people that are taking the gas out of the ground. So like the folks that are in, West Texas pulling it out, Conoco, XTO, EOG, all the people that are producing it. And then the other folks are the people that whoever you pay your gas bill to. And that was actually during the freeze. That was one thing that was kind of cool. I called my contacts at Atmos and Centerpoint, and just to make sure that they were good. If they weren't, I'm not sure how we would have been able to fix it, but I'm just checking in on them. And despite all of the power problems, most people did not lose gas service. The folks that lost gas service were few and far between, and very happy to say that Catco products played a big part in that. My Atmos guys and Centerpoint guys, oh man, we have heaters on the stuff that might freeze. And so everything's up and running. We're not losing pressure. Everything's still flowing downstream. So that was a relief. So
we also did not lose gas for what it's worth.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll send you a letter later today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about you've shared with us previously your interest in, learning about the business world and the fact that there are all of these resources around, and it's kind of this big open ocean of possibility, and things are not well aggregated, things are not well understood. Talk to us a little bit about Get Better at Business.
Sure. So Get Better at Business is an effort that I'm actually about to have a conversation with my team about this, because I want to make sure that they understand that Get Better at Business, which is a podcast that I do, and we have aspirations of being a content hub for a lot of things about how, making sense of, running your business, whatever it is. I want to make sure they understand that it's like, this is not some side hustle. This is not a thing that I am doing to, I'm not trying to get out of this and go be an influencer or whatever. The reason that I've gone down that path is really just primarily for my own growth and development as a CEO, is that I feel like, when you're part of a growing company, I've got the goods to be a good leader of this business as it exists today. And I'm probably capable enough to be a good leader of this business whenever we are, 1.5 or maybe even 2 times the amount of business that we're running. But if we take this thing 10x and we really continue to grow and expand, am I the leader that I need to be to run that organization? And the answer is that, right now, probably not. If you were to just drop a business in my lap and that is got 10 times the revenue and complexity and challenges that Catco does, I'm probably not ready. And so how am I going to make sure that I am ready whenever that time comes? And so I try to handle that by learning, getting, working with peer groups, studying. A few years ago, I went back to school, got a grad degree in industrial distribution here at A&M. And so the whole idea, yeah, that's right. Whoop. So anyway, the whole idea of Get Better at Business is largely because I assume that other folks are like me and there's stuff about business that they don't understand or want to understand better. And so I try to reach out and talk to people that are smart about things that I want to be smarter on. And I extract as much information out of them as I can. And so we've got so Get Better at Business is the podcast, and we do that. And then we're starting to get a little better about, we're forming the ideas of how can we take that content and put it all into one spot. And my ambition there is to create the resource that I wish that I would have had whenever I first started out. So it's, like I said, I showed up on day one. I, didn't make it through the Mays business program. I didn't get a lot of business education in engineering, certainly did not get business education about running an entrepreneurial organization whenever I was in, working for the world's largest employer for the United States government. So I had to kind of figure it out. And I've learned a lot of stuff on the way, and I'm continuing to learn a lot. And there's so many times that I really wished that there was one place that I could go and just, if I had some kind of a challenge of like, man, what am I going to do about marketing? What am I going to do about this, particular operational challenge? How am I going to fix this supply chain stuff that we are going through? Mm-hmm. It's like, man, I really wish that there was just one place that I could go that would point me to a lot of really smart people and a lot of really good resources that would help me with that. So that's the idea. That's what I'm going to create. And I don't know if it will be useful for anybody else, but I know that it's going to be really, really useful for me. And I figured that I'm probably not alone in that. And so I think that there's a good chance other people might find it helpful as well.
What has been the best resource for you so far? Like, a lot of business owners talk about EOS. Mm-hmm. We do some dabbling with EOS ourselves. There are a lot of other kind of subsections of what you're talking
Sure.
about that are, that are really well regarded, but what's been the best kind of, what's helped you make the biggest leap?
The thing that has helped me make the biggest leap, and there's no doubt in my mind. Well, let me first just take a second to talk about EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. I love it. I tell people like, man, I drink the orange Kool-Aid, man. Like, I really love the system. I think that it's a fantastic, and it has really brought a lot of structure around, how we can run and operate our business. And I'm a really big structure and process guy. I kind of, that's the way that I have to think about things. It's probably, the engineer in me, I guess. But so that's been super, super helpful. However, I will say that number one, and it's not a close second, was joining a CEO peer group. The one that I did was Vistage. Like I said, I wasn't eligible for Entrepreneurs Organization when I started looking for something. And so, the Vistage folks, you don't have to necessarily be the owner to participate.
But the organizations are a little bigger, right? Or the minimum barrier is a little bigger?
Well, I mean, I think that they do a pretty good job of putting you in the right group. And so they had a good vetting process where they talked to me. They tried to understand my business because, part of it for me is that while, a lot of folks, that are in my situation are, they're entrepreneurs, but they're, running kind of, a little bit smaller organizations that don't have the same levels of complexity, people that don't have to deal with, supply chain stuff, and at the time I was running a team that had, we had 20 employees, which, if you look at all of the entrepreneurs in the world, there's like, there's a lot of companies, obviously there's a ton of companies that have a lot more than that, but it's a pretty big outfit. And so they found the right group for me. And part of the real value that they bring is that they don't necessarily put you with a bunch of people that are just like you. And that kind of brings me to why this thing was the most valuable is, very early on after I joined the group, I had something that I was trying to work through, like, should I hire a marketing person or something like that, and for me, it was this huge, big challenge that I just did not know how to deal with. And we had, I was working through the issue with some of the people on my team, and my friend Jared, who runs a company called Talent Core that is growing very aggressively. Jared's a super talented, salesperson and entrepreneur, and somebody that I respected, quite a bit. We're talking through all this stuff, and he just stops and he's just like, wait a second, hey, let me say something. It's like, Travis, you are really freaking smart. Like, you're one of the smartest people I know. And it's like, if this is what you think that you should do, then it's probably the right choice. And so you just need to go do it. And it was, at the time, I was really sort of putting an asterisk next to my name as, it's like, well, I'm the CEO, but it's a family business. It's like, well, like, I'm not the founder of the company. And so, like, I was sort of discrediting a lot of my instincts, and I was discrediting a lot of the stuff that I was doing. And so, Jared was just like, dude, you're smart. You're good at this. And this was not my dad telling me this. This was not, my wife telling me this. This is this guy that's running a company that is orders of magnitude bigger than mine, growing on a crazy fast rate. He's on his way to, he's on the private plane trajectory, right? And this guy's telling me to trust my gut and do what I know is right. And I was like, wow, that's, that was a really encouraging thing. And we help each other work through all of these issues. And that there are people in my group, I've got a friend of mine that has got a couple of really, really cool companies, one of which he is probably, on track to, whenever he decides to sell it, he's going to get, it'll have a number with 9 digits in front of the period. And he works through his issues, and I help him talk through it, and I ask him good questions and give him, my assessment and advice, and he finds it really, really valuable. And, same thing goes, another friend of mine, her company is, going to have a, multi-billion-dollar valuation, and, straight unicorn startup. And I get in the room with these people, and before that, if you would have asked me, it's like, hey, do you think that you can really step in the room with somebody that's got a company that's growing at triple digit, growth rate, year over year for the last 4 years? You think you can help that person? Or do you think that you can step in the room with this, this lady that is engineer, lawyer, running this company that's got $1 billion valuation,
and speaks 9 languages,
something like that. I mean, honestly, it's like she speaks several languages. When she can't make a meeting, it's because, she's over in the Middle East working with, folks in all these high places. She's like, do you think that you can step in and help them? I'll be like, no way. Absolutely, I can't. But now that I'm there, it's like, do they actually find my advice and my insight really, really valuable? And so obviously, these folks are able to give me really, really great advice from their experience, but they also find what I have to say valuable and helpful. And whenever one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan, he talks about this, that, the most important asset that any company has is the confidence of the entrepreneur. And because if that's gone, like if the entrepreneur does not believe in what it is that they're trying to do, what it is that they're trying to accomplish, then it's this leadership vacuum. People don't know, organizations need clarity. This is where we're going. This is what we're trying to do. And it's hard to have that if the person at the top is not really clear and confident. And so
it's Jim Collins, level 5 leadership.
Yeah, totally. And so it's like being a big part of what has really leveled me up in my confidence about what we could be doing, should be doing, has been joining a peer group and bouncing those ideas off of other people. And then also just, being able to help others. So it's I don't remember exactly where I picked this up, but somebody one time told me about this rule of thirds when it comes to your development. And I think that they were actually talking about great musicians, maybe was what they were saying, is that, it's like you need to spend a third of your time learning from people that know more than you. And, so studying the masters, right? And, getting coaching from people that know a lot more about whatever it is that you're doing. Then you need to spend about a third of your time with your peers, folks that are sort of at the same place as you, that can relate to what you're doing, where y'all can, help each other figure it out together. And then you need to spend about a third of your time coaching and helping people that are not as far along the journey as you. And whoever this was that was saying this, like the thing they said is like, dude, a lot of the best professional musicians out there give lessons. And it's just, so the thing I like about the peer group is that really you really get all three, because, there's a lot of learning that goes on, and then, you're sort of in it together, and you can commiserate with one another, and you share a lot of the same problems. And then also you get an opportunity to help people. Because, me, even as somebody that's running a much smaller company than some of these folks, like, dude, there's roads that I've been down that some of these people have not. There's some of these people running really, really big companies are going to run into challenges of, going through family transitions. And that's something that I now have experience with that they don't. And it's, ways that I can add value there. So
that's great. What's next? So I have a little peek behind the curtain for some of this, but talk with the audience about where it's all going.
So Catco is a really exciting business, and, something that everybody, goes through is, building the right team. And so we've been adding a lot of people lately. We've got, adding new capabilities that people are bringing to the table. And so this is Gino Wickman, who was the EOS guy, one of his books, talks about, one day you will look around the table and you'll see this team of people and just be like, man, this is who I want to get into the trenches with. And so, we've been on a journey to get that right for, it's never ending to get to, finding great people and leveraging their talents around you is a never ending journey. But that's, we're getting there. And so now we've got, I talked about, you fall to the level of your systems. We've been working really hard on creating systems that are repeatable and scalable, asking ourselves the question like, okay, if we triple, quadruple our business, is this going to still work? And so we've been sorting all that out. And so we're now at a position where we're, looking at some very significant growth in the next couple of years via just improvements in what we've been doing, and then releasing a lot of new products out into the marketplace. And so that's really exciting. So continuing to build and grow that and build on the legacy that my grandfather started, and my dad and my uncle and my brother carried on, and that is a really, really, that's a really exciting thing. The next thing, and then on the other side of that, and as part of my responsibility, making sure that I'm capable of leading that company that's, growing on that trajectory, is, we're doing a kind of a relaunch of the whole Get Better at Business and really doubling down on that in a big way so that we can make sure that we are connected with, the people that can help us overcome whatever the challenges are that we're going to run into next. And, this is also another great way that we can add value to the partners that we have in the marketplace. And so people that are selling our product, vendors that we're working with, customers that we're working with, it's a different level of conversation whenever you can sit down with these folks and talk about not the product that you're selling, but the real challenges that they're having as a business. And it is a real one of the coolest things that has happened to me since I have been running Catco is that I had a distributor call me up. Usually they wanted to talk about the product. Hey man, I've got a problem with this heater. What kind of thing do I need here? Application advice. Mm-hmm. And he actually called me up and said, man, I really need help with my marketing. I really need to figure out how to, step up my game and, these various areas, like you seem like you have a really good handle on this. What do I do? So I was able to connect him with a whole bunch of resources. I was able to point him to some good books, and I was able to sort of explain to him what we are trying to do with our marketing. And, like I said, that's just a different kind of conversation that you can have. And it's the sort of conversation that you should be having, sort of owner to owner, CEO to CEO. Those are the types of things that you should be talking about, is not your products and services, but hey, how can we grow our business? How can we improve the value that we're bringing to the marketplace? So that kind of stuff wouldn't be possible if I wasn't doing the Get Better at Business stuff. Like the where I picked that up was from having conversations with people about marketing and, how do I do that? Interviewing people on podcasts about, hey, how do I figure out this marketing thing? And I was able to help him. So we're doubling down on that effort in a big way. Going out, we're investing in people and processes and teamwork. Partnering with the podcast architect folks who are putting on this lovely program here to really step up our game there. And so that's really exciting. Next week, I've got my first call. I have a book that I'm going to be putting out in early 2023 about generating organizational clarity in your business. And so, right, a lot of irons in the fire. And of course, the world will throw a myriad of other challenges at us along the way, but it'll all be really fun to tackle, I'm sure.
Well, we definitely wish you the best with it. How can our listeners follow what you're doing?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. That's usually the place where I am the most active. And so I am at TM Richards, TMRICHRDS. That's not a typo. There is no A. And so I'll, hopefully we can link to that in the notes and all that. So, you can follow me on LinkedIn. If you are an EOS company, I do have quite a bit of experience with that, and I'm pretty deep in that literature and tight with folks in that community. So really just anything that I can do to be helpful to any of the listeners, like just reach out via LinkedIn. I'd be happy to walk you through whatever challenges you're having and see if there's anything I can do to help you.
We definitely appreciate you taking the time to come speak with us.
Yeah, man. No, it's been a blast. I love doing this.
Absolutely. Travis, thanks so much.
Yeah, dude. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. Drop us a like below and feel free to leave a comment if you wish. We appreciate positivity and constructive feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes and bonus content. You can also take us on the road using your favorite podcast listening app. We have those linked below. If you'd like to know more about Mays Business School or our guests, visit mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Talk with you soon.